African stories, friends forever. A mouse and a frog were friends. Every morning the frog would hop out of his pond and go to visit his friend, who lived in a hole in the side of a tree. He would return home at noon. The mouse delighted in his friend's company, unaware that the friend was slowly turning into an enemy. The reason? The frog felt slighted because, though he visited the mouse every day, the mouse on his part had never made an attempt to visit him. One day he felt he had been humiliated enough. When it was time for him to take leave of the mouse, he tied one end of a string around his own leg, tied the other end to the mouse's tail, and hopped away, dragging the hapless mouse behind him. The frog dived deep into the pond. The mouse tried to free himself but couldn't, and soon drowned. His bloated body floated to the top. A hawk saw the mouse floating on the pond's surface. He swooped down and, grabbing the mouse in his talons, flew to the branch of a nearby tree. The frog, of course, was hauled out of the water too. He desperately tried to free himself, but couldn't, and the hawk soon put an end to his struggles. In Africa, they have a saying, "Don't dig too deep a pit for your enemy, you may fall into it yourself." African stories, the root of the matter. A porcupine came and asked the dog for food. The dog said he had no food, but showed him a field of sugarcane belonging to a judge. "Eat as much as you want," said the dog, "but leave the roots intact so that the plants will grow again." The porcupine found the sugarcane sweet and juicy. He began to visit the field every day. In the beginning, he ate only the stems, as directed by the dog, but after a few days he began to eat the roots too. One day, the judge saw the destruction in his field and was very angry. He called the dog and accused him of destroying his crop. The dog said it was the porcupine that was to blame. The porcupine said he was innocent and suggested that the matter be settled in court. The judge agreed. The porcupine waited till winter set in. Then, one chilly morning, he went to the dog's house and told him the judge had summoned them. When they entered the judge's chamber, the dog began to shiver with the cold. "See how he trembles, Your Honor?" said the porcupine. "Isn't that a sure sign of guilt?" "What do you have to say for yourself?" asked the judge, looking sternly at the dog. But the dog's teeth were chattering with the cold, and he could not speak. Thinking that his silence was an admission of guilt, the judge pronounced him guilty and kicked him out of the house. Whenever a dog barks incessantly, Africans say he is warning the judge that the porcupine has got into his field. African stories, royal servant. The king of Camera in Africa was a proud and stern man, feared by all his subjects. One day, while sitting in his mud palace, surrounded by fawning courtiers and watched by a multitude of people who had come to see him, he was suddenly overcome by a sense of grandeur and loudly declared that he was master of the world and that all men were his servants. "You are mistaken," said a frail voice. "All men are servants of one another." A deathly silence followed the remark. The blood froze in the veins of the people assembled there. Then the king exploded in anger. "Who said that?" he demanded, rising from the royal stool. "Who dares suggest that I am a servant?" "I do," said a voice in the crowd, and the people parted to reveal a white-haired old man, leaning heavily on a stout stick. "Who are you?" asked the king. "I am Bubaka," said the man. "We have no water in our village. I have come to ask for a well to be dug there." "So you are a beggar," roared the king, striding down to where the man stood. "Yet you have the temerity to call me a servant." "We all serve one another," said Bubaka, showing no fear, "and I will prove it to you before nightfall." "Do that," said the monarch. "Force me to wait on you. If you can do that, I will have not one but 3 wells dug in your village. But if you fail, you'll lose your head." "In our village," said the old man, "when we accept a challenge, we touch the person's feet. Let me touch your feet. Hold my stick." The king took the stick, and the old man bent down and touched the monarch's feet. "Now you may give it back to me," he said, straightening up. The king gave him back his stick. "Do you want any more proof?" asked Boubacar. "Proof?" asked the king, bewildered. "You held my stick when I asked you to, and gave it back to me when I asked you for it," said the old man. "As I said, all good men are servants of one another." The king was so pleased with the royal servant Boubacar's wit and daring that he not only had wells dug in his village, but also retained him as an advisor. African Stories. The Tailless Dassy. Long ago, the lion was the only animal with a tail. One day, he decided that all animals should have a tail like him, and got tails made for all the animals in his kingdom. When the tails were ready, he summoned all his subjects to his cave palace so that he could hand out the appendages. All the animals went except the Dassy. The Dassy felt too lazy to go and asked the monkey going by to fetch his tail for him. The lion had selected a small, furry tail for the Dassy. When the monkey explained that the Dassy could not come and had asked him to bring the tail, the lion gave it to him. The monkey had been given a nice long tail, but as he was going home, it occurred to him that the tail would look better if it were a bit furry towards the end, so he attached the Dassy's tail to it. The Dassy was very disappointed when he learnt that the monkey had kept his tail for himself. But he was too lazy to pursue the monkey to try to get his tail back, and that is why he remains tailless to this day. African Stories. The Three Runners. In the days when whites ruled South Africa and apartheid was the law of the land, two middle-aged blacks met in a whites-only section of Johannesburg. One of them had a permit to work in the area. The other did not. This meant he could be put behind bars for trespassing into an exclusive zone. Suddenly they saw a policeman coming towards them and froze. "Run!" whispered the man with the permit to his friend. "I'll follow." They started running, and the policeman, shouting, "Stop, stop!" began chasing them. Finally, he caught the second man. "Did you think you could outrun me?" he snarled. "Show me your permit." The man, playing for time, began fumbling in his pocket and finally produced his permit. The policeman was taken aback. He realized that he had been tricked. The man without the permit was now too far away to be caught. "When you had a permit, why did you run?" he bawled. "Doctor's orders," said the man. "He has asked me to run a mile every evening." "Oh, yes?" sneered the policeman. "Then why was your friend running?" "His doctor, too, has ordered him to run," said the man. The policeman became red with anger. "You think you're very smart, don't you?" he snarled. "But tell me, if you were only running for your health, why didn't you stop when you saw me running after you? And don't tell me you didn't see me chasing you. I know you did." "Of course I knew you were running after me," said the man. "Then why didn't you stop?" asked the policeman triumphantly. "It was stupid of me," said the man, "but I thought you too had been ordered to run by your doctor."